Living in Colorado, it is easy to become accustomed to the beauty of the mountains, the cleanliness of our cities, and the relative lack of crime that we see plaguing other cities in the country. Because of this, Colorado is often viewed as a leading community in social progression. However, underneath this beauty lies a darker, more troublesome truth. The truth that is plaguing Colorado minorities is the prison industrial complex, defined by critical resistance as the overlapping interests of government and industry that use surveillance, policing, and imprisonment as solutions to economic, social, and political problems. Between the years of 1983 and 2015, Colorado's prison population exploded by 432%. This system of mass imprisonment is not affecting all communities in Colorado equally. While Black Colorado residents make up only 5% of the population, they comprise 17% of those residing in county jails and 18% of those confined to state prisons. Alarmingly, data suggests that in Denver, Colorado, districting has been situated in such a way that the vast majority of minority new prison additions come from a single district. While these districting laws may be relics of a far less progressive era, and not the direct result of any sort of zoning or districting work being done today, the fact that they continue to remain serves as a reminder that things are not as equal as many would have us to believe. This disparity flies in the face of our national promise to all Americans. The Constitution guarantees equal rights for all, and to rectify past crimes against this promise, the 13th Amendment states, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. But in trying to create a solution, those who drafted the 13th Amendment left a loophole, a legal means to continue to take advantage of minority communities through prison sentences, to remove them from society, and threaten them by force of confinement, essentially stealing the promise of equality guaranteed by law. Given such a bleak situation, what is being done to help better the current prison situation? While there seems to be little effort in legislation, nonprofit groups such as Focus Reentry are leading the charge in the attempt to better the situation for those already in the system.
Hello, my name is Jane. I work for Focus Reentry, which is a nonprofit in Boulder, Colorado, where we specialize in reentry programs. So what that means is when folks are leaving specifically Boulder County Jail, we help them get on programs, we offer them resources, and basically connect them to all the organizations in the community that will help them to succeed post-release.
Unfortunately, nonprofits such as Focus Reentry are up against the fully funded power of Colorado State Legislature. In fiscal year 2020 alone, Colorado's prison budget will top $970 million. This unprecedented spending is nothing new, but has been trending upwards since the early 1980s.
You build prisons, they'll fill them, which is absolutely true. And then once they're filled, it's like, oh, look, we have all these people, let's make another one. Additionally, I think it's always going to be politically powerful and beneficial to be tough on crime, no matter your political party. Just yesterday, Jared Polis made some sort of statement where he was like, I'm going to make sure that free Coloradans get vaccines before those that are in prisons. But if you look at where where COVID outbreaks are in Colorado, a lot of them are happening in prisons.
Mm-hmm. Leading up to the 1980s, the Republican Party had built its national power base on being tough on crime. Following the kidnappings and heinous murders of the Wrecker sisters in 1974, and then again the murder of Michelle Talbot, some of the most brutal crimes in Colorado history, lawmakers began pumping tens of millions of dollars into Colorado's prison system in order to appeal to public outcry.
Precedent, but it's always been politically correct and powerful to be tough on crime.
This political maneuvering would be echoed in 1994, when the tough on crime attitude was adopted by the Democratic Party, and the 1994 crime bill was signed into law by President Bill Clinton. This bill greatly expanded national fiscal budgets for law enforcement and prisons, and Colorado was no different.
I actually really like the Colorado Coalition. I feel like I had a similar situation with them actually when I was an undergrad and I was trying to work for them, and I was trying to reach out to them and I wasn't hearing back. But now that I'm on the other side of that, I get it, because at least for Focus, we are so overrun with trying to keep up with all these organizations that we have to work inside with, like Medicaid, a nightmare, not a nightmare, but a bureaucratic nightmare. Like disability, like all of these like different organizations that we have to work on, it just constantly feels like the catch-up game. So I feel like all the advocacy groups nationwide and the ones that I've seen in Colorado are like literally just like treading water because we have to deal with like the criminal justice system, which is so ineffective and like hard to pin down.
Although politicians around the country seem to believe that these incredibly inflexible and costly crime bills were necessary, and that with the best intentions, they are still disproportionately punishing minority communities in Colorado and abroad.
Um, the problem with the like Colorado Coalition reform is like I truthfully believe that there can't be that much meaningful change within the criminal justice system. It was made to police like poor people of color. Like the first prison boom was right after the Civil War when they were like, we just lost all our free labor. How do we get free labor back? Let's make them criminals.
One key area where Colorado has made progress is the abolition of unpaid prison labor. The measure, or Amendment A, passed in 2018, removed any and all language permitting unpaid prison labor. Until 2018, Colorado was still counted among a small number of states that allowed such punishment for its incarcerated citizens. While this legislation does not serve to inhibit the rising population numbers, it does serve to remove a large part of the initiative, i.e., utilizing the prison system to replace the Cotton Kingdom.
So as much as I love my program, like we're only like a reactive program. They've already been placed in jail. They've already been in this life that put them towards poverty, that put them towards crime, and we're just trying to help them catch up. So I've really been thinking that preventative measures are really the best way to do anything about the criminal justice and curbing that population growth.
So what is being done to help keep our youth from a life of crime? Organizations like CAP, the Colorado After School Program, aim to develop programs that keep kids away with sports, learning, and even work programs. These programs are aimed primarily at building relationships between legislators and youth and providing resources for young Coloradans in an attempt to remove them from an otherwise harmful environment or activity.
Colorado spends $36,000 on an inmate per year, but only spends $4,000 on a child in K through 12. So like we're spending so much money on the system that doesn't work. Two main ones that I can think of are mandatory minimums and then mandatory parole. So Colorado is a mandatory parole state, which means even if you get sentenced to 10 years and you serve every single day of those 10 years, you get out and you're still within the criminal justice system to some extent. And with that, like a lot of people serve their 10 years and then they're doing parole and then they have what's called a technical error. They fail their UA and they're back in jail. So definitely those two. And with mandatory minimums as well. Just taking away the ability of the judge to be like, well, this crime happened, but there was so many factors that went into this to make this happen, but they can't do anything about that. Like, definitely funding. One of the services that we offer is providing a backpack. We also provide cell phones for our client, which is huge, but gets very pricey. And I am the one that puts together these backpacks for folks, and it's so heartbreaking when I can't put like a tube of toothpaste in someone's backpack because we lost the funds for it. So donating is definitely important. Also, I think just like being curious about the organizations in your area. There's a lot in Boulder. So I think just not even like finding nonprofits with the aim to help them and to make them better, more stronger, whatever, but just like being curious about what is in your area and what's going on in the...
People like Jane are crucial to reforming the prison industry, especially given that the lawmakers and politicians of this country have made prisons to seem to be solutions, rather than a continuation of ongoing, deeply rooted societal issues. Not only is there a need for reform within prisons, but there must also be reform in the social, political, and economic areas that lead to mass incarceration. Racial disparities in the criminal justice system are recognized throughout the whole country, including our home of Colorado. There is hope for the future, but it begins with breaking the cycle of flooding Americans into prisons nationwide. In order to effectively tackle the cycle of crime, preventative measures need to be put in place. This includes actions like investing in schools and scholars, rather than prisons and prisoners. Each year, millions of dollars are invested into the prison industrial complex when that money could be reallocated into funding beneficial resources like the education system. The school-to-prison pipeline is an issue that also touches us here in Colorado. While the fight to end mass incarceration has begun, it is still far from over. The United States was founded on the concept of freedom, yet holds the most of its own kind captive. The criminal justice system is unfair and extremely flawed in its design, but it is up to those who recognize the inequality that is occurring to step up and to be a voice for the voiceless.